Hello, good evening, Monday evening. Welcome to North West Tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Roger Johnson. Our top story. A tale of two cities where two new hospitals will be built in Lancashire on out-of-town sites. Both are subject to a government review and won't be finished for at least a decade. Also tonight, conquering mountains. In Grief Awareness Week, inspiring stories like Aaron's of people dealing with losing a loved one.
I was terrified to try and access support, but the thing that I did with my dad was being in the outdoors and climbing mountains. They are my best memories with him.
On board the Royal Navy's flagship as the aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales visits Liverpool. She's still walking the walk. Why Dorothy turned 100 with no presents, preferring to help those who are a lot younger.
And it's been a poor old start to the week, cloudy and wet. That said, Janet did see the only hints of blue sky that we did see today in Wigan. Join me at the end of the programme. I'm going to give you all the details on this week's weather.
Well, the sites for two new hospitals in Lancashire have finally been confirmed today. The out-of-town sites will replace the Royal Preston Hospital and the Royal Lancaster Infirmary. And the NHS will now start to press ahead with the plans, but it is all still subject to a national review of new build hospitals by the government, which is due to be published in the new year. With more details, here's Andy Gill.
The proposed site for the new Lancaster Hospital is on land next to the M6 and just north of Lancaster University. It's an area called Bailrig East at present, but if it gets the final green light, it could be the site of an ultra-modern hospital.
It'll allow us to configure our wards in a better way, more single rooms and side rooms. It'll have better access, better car parking for patients, visitors and colleagues. It'll allow us to have a more digitally enabled hospital, so we'll be able to put in new digital systems.
And here's where Preston's new hospital could go, land in Farrington to the south of the city and close to the M65.
This site is very close to the motorway complex, so both it's central within the central Lancashire population that's our district general area for the Royal Preston, but also because we offer the regional services for Lancashire and South Cumbria, it's also accessible for the whole population of Lancashire.
Both Lancaster and Preston hospitals are old and have what bosses call significant problems, leaking roofs and unfit sewerage systems, and neither can expand or modernise sufficiently on their existing sites. Although these are preferred new sites, the NHS says it's still open to other suggestions. Putting a new hospital here on the south side of Preston raises some long-term questions. What happens to the A&E department at Chorley Hospital, which isn't too far from here? What happens to radiotherapy patients who have to travel from South Cumbria?
And that will be further to travel for particularly the northern part of our population. However, with it being just adjacent to the motorway junction, it will be easy to access.
There'll now be a public consultation on the proposed sites, but neither of the trusts will find out until next month when they might get funding. That's because Labour is reviewing the previous government's plans for new hospitals across the UK, and it'll be many years before either Lancaster or Preston open their new hospitals. Andy Gill, BBC North West Tonight.
We will, of course, keep you posted. The North West Ambulance Service has told an inquest today into the deaths of two young children in a house fire that there was a delay in treating it as a life-threatening emergency. 5-year-old Lewis Buziok and 3-year-old Desiree Buziok died 4 days after the blaze in Preston 2 years ago. Their parents have claimed that the ambulance service could have responded more quickly. Here's Jonas Muller.
This inquest resumed after a delay to allow the North West Ambulance Service to be legally represented and for the scope of this inquest to be widened. We heard how it dealt with a house fire in which Lewis and Desiree Buziok were killed in their home in Preston back in April 2022. Angela Lee, who's a service delivery manager, said it was classified as a Category 2, even though reports suggested there were several people in a burning building. It should have been escalated to a Category 1, but it wasn't done so immediately. Now, that category requires a 7-minute response. As a result of this, what happened was the rapid response vehicle didn't get there for at least 15 minutes later than it probably should have done. Now, if that dispatch had happened earlier, Angela Lee said a number of options would have taken place. We would have been able to mobilise specialist resources, senior clinicians and more ambulances. But she went on to say that there were no ambulances available at the time, so in reality it should not have made any difference to that ambulance response time. When they got there, police and firefighters were already giving CPR to the 2 children who'd been taken out of that burning building. In fact, one firefighter described the conditions as extremely challenging. Now, a fire investigation report found that there was a lighter close to a sofa downstairs, and that was the probable cause of the fire. The inquest was told, in fact, that the 5-year-old Lewis had been caught playing with a lighter and burning some clothes a number of weeks earlier. The inquest here at Preston County Hall continues.
And that was Jonas Muller reporting for us. The former chairman of the Countess of Chester Hospital told the Thirlwall inquiry into Lucy Letby's baby murders today that not inviting doctors who were suspicious of her to an important meeting was a big personal failure. Sir Duncan Nicol spoke for the first time earlier. He said he didn't remember comments at the meeting comparing the baby deaths with the case of Harold Shipman, the Hyde GP who murdered hundreds of patients. He apologised for not intervening sooner. 12 men from the North West have been convicted for their part in the biggest drugs conspiracy to come before a British court. They were part of an 18-strong gang which struggled in billions of pounds of heroin, cocaine and cannabis from the Netherlands in lorries full of onions and ginger to mask the smell. They were found guilty in 2 trials at Manchester Crown Court, one of which took 23 months, and that's the longest in English legal history. Typhoo tea has been saved from administration by the Manchester-based vape manufacturer Supreme. Typhoo, who've been making tea for 120 years, entered administration in November. The £10 million deal aims to keep it as a household name. And the Grammy Award winners, Kings of Leon, will headline the opening night at next year's Lytham Festival. The organisers say they've been trying to get the group to play the event for years. Alanis Morissette, Justin Timberlake and Simple Minds will also perform. Now, Theresa McMahon had worked hard to get her dream job in TV, but 6 years after she started, she was found dead at her home in Salford in 2021. 2 weeks earlier, she had reported allegations of domestic abuse to the police, and this week an inquest will look into why she died, but there are concerns that it may not get the full story, as Phil McCann reports.
She was extremely intelligent, very bubbly, and very witty, and she really was very interested in moving forward with a career.
I'm Theresa and I'm based at Granada Report, so at the moment I'm producing bulletins with a view eventually to producing the programme.
She turned her life around and she worked for ITV for the last 6 years of her life, and she did amazingly well.
People who own dogs are 34% more likely to reach exercise targets.
Theresa McMahon was a rising star, both in front of and behind the camera at Granada Reports. But a court case earlier this year heard that she had told close friends and the police there was domestic abuse in the final year of her life.
He's also broke my fingers, broke my ribs, you know, just like generally just battered me and attacked me loads.
The court was told that was a call Theresa made to Greater Manchester Police after she'd applied to find out whether a former partner had a history of domestic abuse under what's known as Clare's Law. She was later wrongly told her application would be refused because they were no longer together.
Can I make an appointment then for somebody to come and speak to you?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, OK then.
That appointment didn't happen for 9 days. The court heard Theresa later withdrew her allegations. 2 weeks after that call, Theresa was found dead at her flat in Salford. The police concluded she had taken her own life.
Well, in my opinion, she sounded frightened, and even people that do not know Theresa, that have listened to that recording, believe that she sounds frightened.
Theresa's auntie Lorna has taken on fighting for her niece after Theresa's mum died earlier this year. Lorna complained to the police watchdog, which found there was a myth within GMP that former partners couldn't use Clare's Law. Organisational failings led to that 9-day wait for her appointment, which the IOPC said was unacceptable.
She probably felt that the police aren't interested in her allegations. She can't have disclosure. They allege that she didn't want to pursue a prosecution. It made her more vulnerable.
Lorna took the police watchdog to the High Court in March, arguing the police had failed to properly investigate Theresa's domestic abuse allegations and the potential of third-party involvement in her death. The police argued there was no evidence of that. The court action failed. On Thursday, a coroner will look into the circumstances around Theresa's death. Theresa's inquest is due to be heard here at this court in London. It was transferred here by the most senior coroner in the country after concerns were raised with her by Theresa's and about perceptions of bias between Greater Manchester Police and the coroners in Greater Manchester who were dealing with Theresa's case. But she's concerned that even the hearing here may not get to what she considers to be the full story about why Theresa died.
The inquest has been set for 1 day and 1 day only, and 1 day is not long enough in my opinion.
Theresa's former partner Robert Chalmers was invited to comment but didn't. He's previously denied any wrongdoing. GMP says it's fully engaged with getting Theresa's loved ones the answers they deserve. Phil McCann, BBC North West Tonight in central London.
Well, today marks the start of Grief Awareness Week. It is, of course, something that we all encounter, but how well we cope with it can have a profound impact on our lives. We're going to be looking at the issue over the next few evenings, meeting people with different experiences and different ways through the toughest of times. And I have to say, although it sounds quite bleak, it actually is very uplifting. And we're going to begin tonight with a young man who's taking life one step at a time.
We used to come here a lot when I was a kid, me and my sister, particularly with my dad. You know, this was just a place where we walked the dogs, happy childhood memories. To be honest, before things sort of deteriorated as a family and my dad's health.
Aaron's in his 30s now, and he cherishes happy memories. In the past 2 decades, they've been few and far between.
When you're 13, 14, and you notice that your dad drinks a lot and he's always in the pub and there's empty cans everywhere, you think maybe that's a bit of a problem, but you don't understand. I actually thought that was kind of cool and what an adult does in some ways. It wasn't until I got a bit older that I realised that that's active addiction and it's destroying your health, physical, mental health, and all the sort of things that come with that as well. So not just decline in health, but not being able to work and debt piling up and various other things. It was horrible because I knew what was coming.
Somehow, Aaron kept his own life on track, did well at school, graduated from a top university. But when his dad died when he was in his mid-20s, Aaron finally started to wobble.
I think every lad grows up seeing their dad as sort of superhero. That's how I saw my dad when I was younger. But that floored me, and unfortunately sort of turned to the same kind of methods that my dad had. I started drinking heavily, and I ended up in a pretty bad spot within 6 months to a year after my dad had passed away.
But Aaron knew he needed support, and that's where his life started to turn around.
I needed to do something, and I found this charity called Strong Men. I was terrified to try and access support, but the thing that really made me actually fill out a form and go for it was that it was in Snowdon. The thing that I did with my dad was being in the outdoors and climbing mountains. They are my best memories with him. So I saw that and I thought, right, I've got to give it a go.
And that led him, among other things, to the top of Africa's highest mountain. Aaron has more adventures planned. He's now helping other men through Strong Men to deal with their own grief, and he's taking professional qualifications, climbing mountains, conquering them, in more ways than one.
For a long time I just felt weak and broken, to be honest, and mountains feel strong. Getting to the top of a mountain, mountains are just amazing things. And to climb one is a big achievement, whether that's Snowdon or Kilimanjaro. Being part of the charity, I don't feel alone anymore. I'm part of a community of people. I'm giving a bit back now as well, which shows how much I've progressed from where I was 4 or 5 years ago.
It was really lovely to meet Aaron. The men's grief charity which supported Aaron is called Strong Men. Its website is strongmen.org.uk. The one you can see in front of you, bbc.co.uk/action line, has details of other organisations offering help and support, links through to them as well. And tomorrow, as we continue this series, we're going to meet the celebrant who is asking why talking about grief is still a taboo. Now, the Royal Navy's new flagship officially took on the role at 10 o'clock this morning in Liverpool. The 65,000-tonne aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales is docked in the city for a week. It's the first time that she's been to the city since 2020. She's taken over the flagship role from Queen Elizabeth II, which is the other big aircraft carrier. And at the weekend, they do it on rotation, I think. At the weekend, thousands of people will get the chance to tour HMS Prince of Wales. But Katie Barnfield, lucky thing, has been on board today.
The Royal Navy's flagship carrier making her way into Liverpool. The 65,000-tonne warship is the Navy's biggest and newest and was partly built in Merseyside.
She's one of 2 Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carriers and they are the pride of the fleet, the centre of the fleet, and the whole rest of the Navy is effectively designed to protect it and go with it. The hangar we're standing in now, you could put 2 Type 23 frigates inside it.
The ship will be docked here in Liverpool for the next week, and at the weekend 10,000 people will get the chance to come on board and have a look round.
Over the course of the week, Monday to Friday, we've got lots of smaller events on board. They're not all that small. We've got 1,000 school children coming on board on Wednesday, for example. And then that culminates on Friday, where we're going to go and exercise our newly granted freedom of the city by marching through the town square.
On board, there are plenty of nods to the city, including passageways named after Liverpool's streets and landmarks. So this passage of the ship is actually called Clayton Square, is it?
Yeah, it's called Clayton Square. There's plenty of Liverpool natives on board, so it's brilliant for us, absolutely fantastic for us to come here. Welcome to the Warrant Officers and Senior HMS on board Prince of Wales.
Nice. So how many people live on this ship then?
So currently there's 850, but we can go up to 1,600. This will be the recreation area for about 350 senior rates.
If you needed any more idea of her size, on top of the ship is a 4.5-acre flight deck.
This is the biggest flight deck in the Royal Navy.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, as you can see over there, we have the ramp. We can fit up to 36 F-35 Bravos. We have different squadrons on board. We have helicopter landings, so we can do search and rescue from here.
Tickets for the weekend's tours sold out in hours, but there's still plenty of time to see the ship from the city centre before she leaves on Monday. Katie Barnfield, BBC North West Tonight in Liverpool.
She's huge, isn't she? We're going to stay in Liverpool for the start of the sport. Richard is here. The red side of the city seemingly running away at the top of the Premier League after beating the blue side of Manchester yesterday.
You're right, Roger. Yeah, Liverpool were very impressive, weren't they, in beating City 2-0 at Anfield to go 9 points clear at the top of the table. Pep Guardiola's Blues are 5th, 11 points behind Slot's team. The Blues are without a win in 7 games. In the other big Manchester Merseyside clash yesterday, United beat Everton 4-0 at Old Trafford as the Ruben Amorim era continues to gather pace.
There's a big concern that this run could see Everton struggle to even get a point right into the new year.
Some big games coming up in midweek as well. Talking of which, Burnley are back in the Championship's automatic promotion spots after a comfortable 2-0 win at Stoke. Jay Rodriguez from close range and Josh Brownhill from the penalty spot with the goals for the Clarets. East Lancashire neighbours Blackburn Rovers are just outside the playoffs after an excellent 1-0 win at home to high-flying Leeds United. Todd Cantwell's first-half penalty enough for a 3rd victory in a row for Rovers. And at the other end of the table, Emil Reese's second-half strike and Preston North End a 1-1 draw at home to West Brom. In rugby union, Sale Sharks returned to form with an excellent 39 points to 25 win over Leicester Tigers at the Salford Community Stadium. Sale ran in 6 tries in all to get back to winning ways in the Premiership. Aaron Reid finishing on a couple of excellent moves. The Sharks climb up to 6th in the table. Earlier, Sale's women lost 34-17. Well done to the Sharks. Several of our League 1 and 2 clubs, by the way, will be hoping for a big draw tonight against one of the Premier League heavyweights in the third round of the FA Cup. Live, Roger, just after this programme on BBC 2 from 7.
Oh, well, I'm on the late news. I shall take great delight in having a look at that. Lovely. Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you. Right, Kay's got the weather for us in just a moment. But before that, if you're lucky enough to live to be 100, and many people will, you'd probably be entitled to a pile of presents. But Dorothy Robinson from Warrington, who celebrated becoming a centenarian yesterday, said that she didn't want any. Instead, she wanted well-wishers to support others who are a lot younger than her. Davinia Ramos has been to see her today and will explain why.
Happy birthday to you.
I've always liked being in the open air, walking, gardening, exercise, always played games. Hockey when I was at school, and then when I got older, it was bowls. And that was the best thing I did when I retired, to join the local ladies' bowling club in the park just down the road, because they've been great friends.
Dorothy Robinson spending her 100th birthday surrounded by her family. She's got 3 children, 5 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren, and they all mean the world to her.
Well, I lived in the Potteries, so it was a sort of different area altogether. My mum was one of 8, so although I was an only one, I had lots of cousins. I never felt like an only one, so that was great.
Dorothy met her husband Arthur when he was in the RAF in Scarborough. They moved to Warrington after they got married, and she worked as a teacher until she retired.
It was very different in those days. You had a class, you didn't have any help like they have now, and it would be 50 in the class. And it was very, very old buildings, windows were high, you couldn't see out of them.
She celebrated her birthday with 100 friends and family yesterday, and there was time for a bit of dancing. Dorothy hasn't asked for presents, but donations instead to children in need.
We feel really, really lucky to still have Mum around, and the fact that she's still so able to do things, and you know, she's really with it. And Mum was saying that she wanted to give to children in need because she's watched it on Country File and has seen all the good work that Children in Need does and all the support, so that's why she chose Children in Need as her charity.
She's spending her birthday with her family, and there'll definitely be time for a bit more of this. Davinia Ramos, BBC North West Tonight in Warrington.
Thank you, Dorothy, for your donation. Not having it that she's 100. She looked fantastic, didn't she? She's from Stoke, though. Happy birthday, Doc.
A fellow Stokonian.
Yeah.
Is that what you are? A Stokonian?
Something, well, that'll do. Potter is what
it's
it
something.
is. Get on with
it. Good evening. Nice to be back. Not with the best of the weather for today, but there will be an improvement for tomorrow, so some good news ahead. I loved this picture. Jean sent it in. She said the weather was moody, like the face. And Annie sent this photograph in Reno. You can see the mist, the murk. There's been an awful lot of low cloud rain as well, so not a pleasant start to the week in terms of the weather. Send your photographs in. You can send them on socials or become a BBC weather watcher and let me know how it is where you are. Try and get your photos on the telly. How are we doing for this week then? Well, we're starting off the week with some cold nights, some frost for some, sunny days to come through Tuesday, Wednesday, unsettled conditions Thursday. It looks at the minute like we could well get some stormy conditions on Saturday, the risk of gales. No warnings out for that as yet, but it is one that we're keeping an eye on. Here's the front that brought us the rain and the windy conditions at first this morning. That's cleared through. So it's going to be a fairly chilly night tonight, and then we'll get another front as we head through tomorrow night. So a lot of tomorrow day looks to be fine. Now, as we head through this evening, there could well be the odd shower lingering for parts of the coast of Merseyside and the Isle of Man, but elsewhere it will be largely dry with clear skies developing. Temperatures will drop down to freezing, if not below, so watch out for ice where you've had the rain through today. Patches of frost as well, and some fog around first thing tomorrow morning. These will slowly lift and clear. And on the whole, we are looking at a dry and fine day. Like I said, a few showers perhaps clipping the Isle of Man. Elsewhere, dry and fine. We'll start to see cloud generally increasing towards the end of the day here, but elsewhere it stays dry. Chilly feeling day, though. Temperatures struggle to get above 5 degrees in some spots. As we head through Wednesday, settled conditions, but another front then starts to make its way through. Now, this is an overnight feature, an awful lot of rain to come. And again, then we head through Thursday with wet and windy conditions. But the airs start to come from the south, so temperatures slightly milder before it gets colder once again into the weekend. Better day Sunday.
So what are people from Marple called?
Marpolonians.
Marpolonians.
The best there is.
Oh, yeah, very good.
I got the whole of Marple singing on Saturday.
You switched the lights on, didn't you? Can you believe that?
We sang Santa Claus.
They went real A-list this year, didn't they? Hey? Right, thank you for watching.
There, Roger.
Have a lovely evening.
Take care.